I'm going to talk about leadership. And it may not seem like it for a second, but just stick with me and follow along and we'll end up there eventually. There's be storytelling along the ways. But when Elena reached out to me and asked if I would be here today, I started thinking about what I would speak about, and I started thinking about you, about all of you, and I did not know that there was this many of you because I hadn't been back here since 2020 also. But I began thinking how unlikely it is that your guys' path and my path crossed. And I know you may be thinking, you're in automotive, you know Scott Lehman, you guys sell cars, why would we naturally not cross paths? But let's just start at the beginning. So I was raised in extreme poverty. I was raised in Bakersfield, California, and when I say poverty, this is back before SNAP or food stamps. They gave you a cardboard box and you went to a metal shed and then they put some random food products in there that didn't even make sense or go together, like corn syrup, white bread, some kind of canned meat that looked like Alpo. I mean, it was crap. And so I guess we were happy to get our box of crap to eat because that's all there was out in the world. We didn't get to go pick what we got. But that was the level of poverty we were in. And I know that probably knowing people in the auto industry that some of you came from those backgrounds too. And we were go to bed hungry level of poverty at times. We were super excited to go back to school shopping at Goodwill level of poverty. Like that was exciting for us. But the odds of climbing out of that level of poverty are very, very tough. And not because there are not rags to riches stories out there, because there absolutely are. But the poverty mindset is the crippling thing that will do you in. Because everybody that you know, that you love, that you trust, that's how they think. And you've been programmed since birth to think like that also. Scarcity and poverty are a mindset, please understand that. And getting out of that can only happen by who you choose to surround yourself with. I like to think about things that are obvious, right? Like lottery winners. Lottery winners are, yeah, this guy was living paycheck to paycheck, and then he spent $1, and then he ended up with $30 million. And then he never did anything to change who he was on the inside mentally to become the guy that could manage $30 million. And so before it's all over, not only is he broke, but because he had so much money, people were willing to lend him money too, and now he is bankrupt, losing stuff that he financed when he started running out of money because he never changed the big muscle in his cranium to start thinking as a wealthy person and to start thinking in abundance. He was still in the same mindset. And I want to talk about 2022 in the car business. I deal with dealers coast to coast, and most salespeople in 2022 made anywhere from 2 to 3 times their normal annual salary because the grosses were so high and they were making so much money. And some of my good friends in the auto industry were wise enough to bring in financial advisors to help people learn how to start thinking about their money in a different way. But now we're in 2023, and just like just a bus that came to a screeching halt, right? Things are back to the way they were before, and now are we living paycheck to paycheck again? Are we back to that mentality because we did not learn the lessons when we were living in abundance? And so I know that if you have a $10,000 paycheck this month, if you're not changing your mindset, you're gonna be paycheck to paycheck next month. It's hustling because you gotta hit that 10K because that's where you set your level at. And so changing your guys' mindset from a poverty mindset to an abundance mindset will be huge for you in the future. And if you are still living like that, you have not overcome that level that you came from, that poverty mindset. And we need to probably take a look at some of the leaders in our life because this is where it all stems from. Our first leaders, as everybody knows, are your parents. And I think about it like minions, right? So like all these little bobbling minions around and someone's like, take me to your leader, and then they take you to the big minion. And so that's all we know are those people in our lives, those parents. And if you had that house in school where all the kids hung out at, raise your hand if you were that kid, you had that house. Everybody hung out at your house, right? The snacks were there, all of the kids were there, it was a safe space for them to be. Then we taught our kids community and generosity with those types of lessons that we were learning, right? If you took your kids to church, or if your parents took you to church, raise your hand. Pop it up there. You got to sing with the choir, you got to be part of Sunday school, learn about Jesus, and now your parents were teaching you about spirituality and forgiveness. So every one of these first leaders that we have taught us something that we took away with us. And let's talk about parents and money. So think about this, if your parents ever said anything like this: money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't make you happy, so why bother? Do you think I'm rich? All of these things were negative messages that were fed to you as a child regarding money, right? And we're all here to make a difference in people's lives because we can use money to do that. So with that lesson, you were learning scarcity and that wealth belonged to bad people. Not necessarily true. Our next leaders in life, this is my favorite story. Our next leaders in lives, we will meet somewhere, either at school, or if you were in scouts as a child, or if you played sports, you had a coach that influenced you. These are the next people that kind of pour into your lives and tell you something about yourself that you didn't know because they notice it about you. So my very first favorite leader in life, her name was Mrs. Zandes. And I think about now, like, I don't know how many of your elementary school teachers you can remember, but I can remember two, Mrs. Zandes and Mr. Arnold. And Mrs. Zandes was this rotund lady. She had red hair and a big smile, and she laughed super easily, and you just wanted to hug her all the time. And I think, like, I thought she was old then because I was like this tall, but she was probably like 35, you know. And so Mrs. Zandes, back in the day, so like this type of paper, this like manila folder type of paper, our report cards came on that back in the day. And they came in a trifold, right? There was 3 areas. He's nodding because he's as old as I am. They came in a trifold for 3 semesters. But on the back was this little space, 3 little spaces for your teacher to write something about you that they wanted your parents to know about you. And when I was 7 or 8, Mrs. Zandes wrote on my report card, and I'm going to quote it because I found it the other day, "Robin has real leadership abilities. If she could only learn to use them for good and not for evil." I was like, 8? That's a pretty heavy statement there now. But what really happened was Mrs. Zandes told me I was a leader. And I didn't know that I was anything else. That's what she told me I was, so I was a leader. And apparently, I was a leader with options. I could be good or evil. So I spent some time on both sides of that fence, good and evil. But think about the labels that you give kids, whether you receive them or whether you're giving them, right? DeShonda, where's DeShonda at? Raise your hand. Raise your hand, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna read DeShonda's report card for y'all. Y'all ready? DeShonda is the class clown. She is constantly cutting up and attracting attention. Is that pretty close? Oh, no. I surveyed the room and I found this out. Okay. So now Shonda believes, for the rest of her life, that she's funny, and she's expected to be funny all the time, and that's Shonda, she's funny. Everyone says it. That's DeShonda, she's funny. Bring her to the party, she's funny. But what people don't expect of DeShonda now is for her to ever be serious or to be taken seriously. All right, I lost him in the crowd. Where's Beto? Beto, where you at? Oh, wait there in the back. Okay, I'm gonna read Beto's report card for you guys. Hang on a second. Wait, how many other class clowns do we have in the room? I heard Josh is. I heard Josh is too, so raise your hand too. There we go. All right, so here's Beto's report card. Beto is a very shy and quiet child, always the last to raise his hand, and doesn't really get involved in a lot, good or bad. How do we think about that, Beto? So now Beto probably thinks that he has to pass on inserting himself into situations, and maybe he was never expected to find his voice. So the things that we label people with are super important, right? So who else was labeled as shy? I know Echo said she was. Anybody else labeled as shy in school? Exactly. They raised their hands like this. Did you see that? This was their hand raise. It was me. All right, so this one is just basic. So if you were ever labeled a jock or an athlete, put them up. Where's all my jocks? Hi, hi, hi. Get up in the air, Jay. Get it up there. I think Jay was labeled shy as well. So what we all thought about the people that they call jocks or athletes, right? Naturally talented, probably not real smart. I'm not saying that you weren't, but that's what it was. He's a jock. That kind of meant he's dumb. And he wasn't, but that's what it inferred, right? Okay, how about the bookworms or the smart kids? Raise them high. Where's the smart kids? There we go, there we go. On the same tone, right? Not super popular, and probably not considered a lot of fun, right? These are the things, the labels that we put with everybody, because everything came with a label, and they may have said, oh, she's the smart one. And they didn't say the rest of it, what the rest of it meant to them, right? Okay, so I was labeled a leader, and honestly didn't know I could be anything but a leader. I want to read you this story. It's about Thomas Edison, and you may have already heard it. There's several different versions of it out there, but this one is what I want to read. One day, as a small child, Thomas Edison came home from school, and he gave a paper to his mom. And he said to her, Mom, my teacher gave this paper to me, and he told me that only you are to read it. What does it say? Her eyes welled with tears as she read the letter out loud to her child. And here's what she read to him. Your son is a genius. This school is too small for him, and he doesn't have good enough teachers to train him. Please train him yourself. Many years after Edison's mother had died, he became one of the greatest inventors of the century. And one day he was going through a closet, and he found the folded letter that his old teacher wrote his mother that day, and he opened it. The message written on the letter was this: your son is mentally deficient. We cannot let him attend our school anymore. He is expelled. Edison became super emotional after he was reading this, and then he wrote this in his diary. Thomas A. Edison was a mentally deficient child whose mother turned him into the genius of the century. A positive word of encouragement can help change anyone's destiny. And there are several versions, like I said, but when his mother gave him that label, she gave it to him as genius. And we all have lights today because of it. So be careful with your labels. Okay, so one more fun thing happened while I was a child. I'm eating my props for this in a minute. So I have an older brother and sister. They're half brother and half sister. We don't call them that. They were just my brother and sister. But you have to know that they were half so that you'll understand the dynamic. And Ronnie is 5 years older than me, and Patty is 3 years older than me. And they are 1/4 Indian. So dark skin, dark hair. But they weren't just that. They looked like they had been kidnapped off the reservation during a famine. They were the skinniest, gangliest kids with huge white teeth you have ever met. Now, when I was a kid, when I was little, I was this little blonde hair, curly blonde hair, blue-eyed, little chubby kid. And I'll tell you what people did to me. Stand up, just for a second. They would come up to me, come right over here. They would come up to me, and here would be the two emaciated twins and me. And they would look at them, and then they would look at me, and they would go, oh my God, you're so cute and so chubby. And that was my label, right? All my life, and I honestly didn't come to this conclusion until a couple years ago, all of my life, being cute and chubby was preferable to being skinny. And so, like, my whole life, like, I rock this crap, right? Like, I honest to God think this is how I go through life, right? And I'm like, I'm cute and chubby. What are you people talking about? Who wants to be that? And so, this is, my sister and I used to fight all the time. And when we would fight, and she's mean as a cat. We would fight, slapping, snot flying, she's scratching me, pulling my hair. And after about, I don't know, 5 minutes of surviving her killing me, I would jump back about 10 feet. I'd come all the way back. So her stupid long arms couldn't reach me. And I would get on my hands and I would lean forward and I'd go, that's so mean. This was when I was using my skills for evil, by the way. And I would go, you're just jealous because you're ugly and skinny and I'm pretty and chubby. Like, that was the biggest insult. She's like, you're stupid. But that stuck with me my whole life, right? Somebody telling me that it was preferable to look like this than to look like that. I had no body image problems ever in my whole life, nothing, right? I do have sister problems still, but that's another thing. Another part of my life whenever I was in my leadership phase was I was not necessarily on the good side of it, I was on the evil side once again, and I had learned to steal. Matter of fact, if you had a $10 bill anywhere out in public, I was probably taking it when you weren't looking. I stole all the time. So my props come in handy, because I'll tell you what, in about 1972, when you went to the store and got a Coke, they all came like this. Plastic had not overrun our world yet. Everything was still in glass bottles. And just like probably Arizona, the bug problem that we have is like cockroaches or ants, right? Nobody has any other real bug problems. And so families would drink their sodas, and then they came in that cardboard 6-pack carrier. They drink their sodas, and they'd have the carrier out on their back porch, and they put their empties in there, right? So that whenever they got ready to go to the store, they would take their bottles back, and they would get a nickel a piece for them, okay? So now, this is a nickel. This is not a pop bottle anymore. We're poor. I'm a thief. So I'm about 7 when my brother teaches me that if you go through every neighbor's backyard and you just take one pop bottle from each person, they'll never notice. Running like wild heathens with pop bottles under our arms, stealing one out of every crate. Back to the grocery store we go, get our money, go to the Burger Shack, buy a burger. Free money from my neighbors, right? And the ice cream man took pop bottles. Chubby girl, ice cream man. This was a win for me. I had to look all over for those bottles. So now we're going to move on to, obviously I was not much of a leader. It took years for me to actually quit being shady Robin and start deciding that my life was going to be better than this, that I could not leave this legacy to my kids. So who could I be? How did I get there? Who did I need to know to get there? And at that point in my life, I was still not on a path to meet you guys. I mean, my next level of leaders were probably criminals or bad guy choices or whatever, until I finally started making better choices. So just like Carl said earlier, everyone is a leader. And I know you don't feel like it because I saw some of you not put your hands up. Everybody is a leader. Everybody here, someone is following you, whether you know it or not, whether you know it. If you are a parent, you have littles that are following you. I just explained all of that to you. I explained it to you from the little version, but now you're the adult, so the things that you say and the actions you take, someone's following you. If you work in the detail department at Premier Auto, and we got some new guys that are starting, or in the service tech over at, a lot of service tech starting over at Casa Grande, the people that have been there for a while, that know how it should go, that know what level of service that Scott says yes means, they are now the leaders of these new guys. Raise your hand if you are in finance or sales manager. Raise your hand. Okay, so whether you do shady business or you do clean business, someone is watching you, and they will follow that path. It's a heavy responsibility, but don't cut corners because someone's following you, and that could get this entire organization into a mess. Don't be shady. Do business with integrity. If you're a single mom and you train really hard, and you put all the good stuff in your brain, and you have mediums that are following you, I'm speaking to Elena. She has people following her, and we talk all the time. And she's so proud because they start picking up habits from her that she didn't even necessarily mean to teach them. So now she's super conscious of everything that she does because she knows everything is a lesson. You're a dad. Any of you that are dads in here, you have 2 choices. You can take pride in your job and say so when you get home at night. I love my job. I love the people I work with. My company is the best. Or you can go home, gripe, and bitch and complain every night. This went wrong, that went wrong, this went wrong, and then that's exactly what they learn from you. That's a heavy responsibility because you don't know they're listening. You don't know that their ears are stuck everywhere. Now, right now, Scott Lehman is your leader for this event, for your life, for your business life. He's your leader. He's your big minion. I think Echo was a minion yesterday. And all of the businesses that he has started, opened, closed, I mean, he's probably gone through, if he's like me, he starts a business, thinks it's gonna work, and then after a while doesn't, or it goes really, really great, so you triple down there. But Scott isn't a leader because he's a businessman. It does make him an entrepreneur, but leadership comes with its own level of responsibility. This right here, this takes a leader and a group of leaders that care about their community and their employees to decide that this is what they're going to do. And I remember a time when the church next to Wetmore needed a bus for their people. And I don't even know that it was a conversation, hey, I'll go find you one or I'll do one. And Scott went and bought a van bus for that church and gifted it to them so that they could get their people to and from church. Did Scott need to do that? No, Scott knew there was a need and he filled it. Or how about the time when Elena made him get dressed in a pickle suit and go read to kindergartners and show them what a leader in their community looks like and that they do care for them? Do you think that kindergartner was ever going to buy a car like in these decades, or even probably while Scott's alive? Maybe they will. I'm kidding. But Scott took the time out of his day to sit down with littles and be somebody that they probably see on TV and hear on the radio, and now they got to put a face to that, with no monetary benefit coming back to him for that. And the thing that he's asking from you, and that they're asking from you in this mission right here, is to don't let Scott carry the weight of it all the time. You are all leaders. There's no reason that you can't find the little ways or the big ways to contribute to this and go, I just don't know how to fit into this because Scott's vision is so big. Make your own vision and give back, because Scott is raising community leaders, not just salespeople, not just lube techs, not just managers. He's raising leaders. Hang on, I gotta get to here. I already went to there. So one of the things that's important to us is you're like, Robin, I do need a leader, and Scott's not all that accessible to me as a leader, and I know I need somebody in the interim. He's up here, and I probably just need a leader right here to get me out of this next level. Start thinking about who those people are. Find people who have an abundance wealth mindset. That they're not just making money, but they have a mindset about money. They have no abundance. Find those people that are generous of spirit, that you see giving back and go, how can I help you? Scott's up here giving back at a major level, but I want to give it back on this level, and I'm going to help you do that. And find those people. And as you find new leaders in your life, the logical thing is going to have to happen, that some of the people that are in your life are going to have to fall away. Because you're just going to keep hanging on to a mindset that won't take you anywhere. And it's hard to separate yourself from that. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the analogy of crabs in a bucket. Yeah? I mean, we say it all the time. Every time we see somebody that's doing really good, and then they fall back in, they've got crabs in a bucket, they got crabs in their life. If you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, one of them will almost get all the way out. And one of those other little turds will reach up and grab him back down and put him back down in that bucket. And so you have to identify the people in your life who are not leaders, who aren't the guys pushing you out of the bucket, they're the ones dragging you back down, and identify them. And every time you see them do that to you, in your head, don't say it out loud, they'll get mad and not invite you to Thanksgiving. Just in your mind, just go, crabs in a bucket. And then you know to give them less and less of your attention, because it will 100% do you in. Needing a mindset reset is not anything that anybody here is immune to. Everybody has mindset issues they've got to get past. Identify them and then find someone to help you past it, because your legacy, your future generations, all the people that are looking to you and are following you right now, because somebody's following every one of you. They're counting on you to make the way better. I heard something yesterday that said, don't buy your kids all the things that you didn't have. Teach them all the lessons that you wish you'd learned. And that to me was profound, because I'm not one of those parents that just gives my kids stuff. So you are a leader, and please be aware that somebody is watching you all the time. Our final leader in life, we've gone from our parents to our coaches, the bad people in our lives, and now your final leader in your life is you. Trust me when I tell you that nobody is crawling in that casket with you. Look around. Not a one of these suckers are going to go in there and go, oh, I'm crawling in there with you. Scott's not going in with you. I'm not. Nobody is. No one can force you to read a book and improve your brain. No one can make you listen to a podcast. Not one person. Nobody can make you help the needy and give back to people in your community, whether it's your neighbors, whoever it is. Nobody can make you, and nobody can drag you to the gym. You got to get your butt up and go do it yourself. Only you can make a difference in your life, and if you don't start right there. One of the most important things I'm going to leave with you today is that while you're leading yourself, you're either leading yourself down a path of excellence or destruction. It's your choice. But please know, someone is following you. Where will you lead them? That's all I got. Go Chiefs!